Alright, so welcome back everyone. This is going to be a very long video. I'm going to say it right out from the start. This is something I need to get off my chest. And I'm doing this for everybody that is currently in pain, suffering, and they're being told that there is nothing wrong with them. And it's all in their heads. And there is nothing wrong with the environment or the spraying, glyphosate, and all these plane trails that create clouds. So, like I said, this is going to be long and I have notes, so just keep in mind that I'm doing this because I want to cover everything and I don't want to wander at the same time. I want to keep it as short as possible while also being able to help the people that are currently experiencing the same things as I am, and to give him some sort of hope and give him some clues on what's going on and who maybe to go see, what kind of treatments are available for them. So with that in mind, I'm going to get started. So for those that are new to my channel, and you probably are expecting something positive, as most of my videos are always on the positive side of things, this video is not going to be very positive. There's going to be a couple of things that are going to be helpful perhaps, but as far as being positive, it's going to be quite the opposite. So about 2 months ago now, I mysteriously started feeling terrible pain in my arms, where the elbows, both sides, started feeling that the muscles were tearing from the bone. And I had a hard time grabbing anything. I had a hard time doing just regular tasks, such as like glass of water, holding your glass of water, opening a doorknob. Yes, it got to the point where I could barely open up the doorknob and I could barely hold a glass of water. So this started, and at first it blindsided me, as I did not injure myself. As you see now, I'm on a workout bench. I've been working out for the last 5 years now. Before that, I had a long stint of working out from, let's say, 17 years old to like 20, 25, something like that. So I'm very experienced with weights. I'm very experienced with how to not injure yourself, because I did so in the past. And ever since this started, I'm no longer able to work out. Obviously, if I can't hold a glass, I'm not able to work out, right? So before I continue, I want to say that if you are pro-government, if you are about listening to the experts, if you're about denying the fact that there's people suffering, and you're going to be leaving some comments on this video, it's going to be deleted. So I'm going to just say that outright. I am not going to tolerate any kind of nonsense on this video. Okay, this is something very, very serious I'm talking about. So at first, when I said, like I said, I started, and this all came out of the blue. I did not injure myself in a workout. I did not do anything strenuous that basically could have resulted in muscle tearing. And basically, this pain was so intense that I was almost begging for anything to just end it, okay? And I mean anything. I'm not kidding here. I've experienced a lot of physical pain in my life. I've had a shoulder surgery. I've broken ribs. I've had a bike accident. I've been involved in a car crash where I was T-boned on my driver's side. So I've experienced a lot of pain. But this pain here was the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt in my life, because it wasn't giving any rest. It wasn't giving me any kind of moment where I had peace. So here in New Brunswick, in Canada, in the Western world, and I would say probably around the world right now, we're experiencing some very difficult times. either it be financially, whether it be problems with the education, with health. Everything is basically very much collapsing. And at the same time, we are being bombarded with poison. We are being manipulated into believing that our fellow friends, family, citizens are basically the ones that are to blame for mysterious illnesses. And these people have very little help. What started in 2019 with 40 cases of this mysterious illness, and then it grew to 2024 to around 200. And now in 2025, we're at over 500. If you look at that trend, you see that if we don't start doing something about this, that you, yes, you, will eventually be affected. Okay? And you can say, oh, no, it's only going to affect a week. And no. If you have any problems when it comes to, let's say, muscle spasms, because this is one of my issues that I used to have when I was young, muscle spasms, muscle cramps, and pinched nerves and things like that. And I know some people will say, well, this is why this is all happening to you. No, I haven't had a muscle spasm and muscle cramp and this intense ever in my life. Okay, where it debilitated me, where it made me basically cry at night, a whole night of crying from the pain. Okay, never had that ever happen. Okay, pinched nerve happens when you can't move like this, and the spasms, the same thing, kind of thing, right? But never have I ever experienced something like this. So in New Brunswick, in Canada, in this Western world, and pretty much all across the world, we're facing psychopaths. People that are bound to control. They're ready to do anything at any lengths to basically gain control and dominate all life to the point where they will annihilate anything in its way. And as I just listed, if you're a politician or if you're a doctor who's covering up for all of these things or media, just know that from 40 to 200 to 500, eventually this is going to come for you. Okay, so if you're covering up, you're going to cover up your own demise. Okay, so this is where we're at, and I want to try to stay as real and not sugarcoat things. So you might think that, oh, well, this is just me, right, in this area here, or whatever. Well, I found out around 3 days ago, where one of my cousins has a daughter who's around 30 years old that fainted twice, and the second time she fainted, she ended up having a seizure, and this seizure got so bad where she couldn't talk, and then she wasn't able to feel some of the extremities, the fingertips and the toes and stuff like that. She wasn't able to talk, okay? And even now, from what I've heard, she's not able to talk properly even now, okay? And then we have people that have big memory issues. People that have this fog, people that are lost, people that have no energy. Okay? So we have all of these symptoms, and depending on what kind of, let's say, weaknesses that we have, it'll affect us differently. I have a neighbor who has been experiencing some stomach pain, and as soon as she eats, she says it feels like razor blades are in her stomach, and because of that, she doesn't eat because it's too painful. I'm willing to bet that what she is experiencing is the same thing as I have, but just in a different, the symptoms are different for her because of maybe she has a weakness in her stomach. Well, I don't. So this pain continued this intense pain continued for over 2 weeks. It was close to 3 weeks. And then on the third week, I finally had a little breather where I was able to function to some degree. And eventually I decided to go see a massage therapist to see if he could find anything physically wrong with me. And so I went to him, and then I explained everything, and I explained about my past, about like the spasms, the pinched nerves and all that stuff. And as I was talking to him about what I was experiencing, he was saying, "Oh, it sounds like a magnesium deficiency." As I was saying more, he was saying, "Oh, magnesium again." And as I kept on saying again, he said magnesium. So, and then he did me, he treated my elbow, my right elbow, where it was most painful. And he basically said, "Oh, you have a tennis elbow, but it's whatever." And I said, like, "Is there any like structural damage in a sense to prevent me from being able to walk and from being able to work out?" Sorry. And he said, "Oh no, like start your magnesium, and within a week you'll be fine. You'll be able to work out again." And then he said, "In fact, go to Ford's Apothecary on the St. George and go see if you can't talk to Peter Ford." And I did so. As soon as I got there, I talked to the lady at the cash, and I was explaining her what was going on. And then this guy in a pharmacy in the back just jumped up, and then he came to me and said, "Follow me." And then he brought me to the magnesium stand. He had a big stand for all the magnesium, and so he said, "This is what you need." And then he took me to his office, and then it was actually Peter Ford himself. And then he rubbed some magnesium cream on my elbow. And for anybody that is struggling with cramps right now, maybe there's some people like me that are experiencing these cramps. Magnesium deficiency is part of this problem. And I'm not going to say who told me this, but apparently there's 95% of Canadians that are magnesium deficient. And there's many people that are reporting the same issues as what I experienced, where they are having a hard time open a door and hold a glass of water. So it's not something uncommon, even though we do not hear about it. And then I asked him again, "Do you think I'll ever be able to work out?" He was like, "Yeah, sure. Give it a week and so of magnesium, and you won't recognize how big of a difference it'll make." So I took magnesium for a week, and I do have to say it helped. It alleviated the pain. The cramps were not as bad, but it was still there. And then after 2 weeks, he said basically to cut my dose in half. And obviously I'm past that time now. I cut it in half a week ago. And now basically I'm just continuing on with just basically, for me, what I've been doing is I've been fasting. I've been doing some Epsom salt baths and foot baths to kind of try to detox and get this glyphosate out of me. And if you're not able to fast, try Epsom salts, or try the different ways. Maybe contact somebody that has some experiences in cleanse and detoxes and stuff like that. And this is obviously not medical advice. I am not a doctor. Anything that I say in this video is not medical advice. I hate to have to say this, but I do have to say this to protect myself. So there's people that you can go see, right? And I'm going to put some names at the end of this video, or I'll put them in the description. There's one person that is, her name is Sarah Nesbitt. She's one of the first ones to come out and be outspoken about this. Another person that you might want to get in touch with, his name is Jacob Buston. Again, I'm going to put his name in the description. If you want to contact me. I'll do my best to try to tell you what you can do, and I'm not a doctor, so I won't be able to help you as much as some people. But the issue is not necessarily the magnesium deficiency, but what is creating the magnesium deficiency, which is the glyphosate and the spraying and the chemicals and the herbicides and the pesticides. I've been doing a lot of research and into all of this. And glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides, what these things do, they pull minerals and vitamins out of things. So if you're spraying some glyphosate or some pesticides on an apple, it pulls out the vitamins and minerals from the apple. So that's why now apples have not as many minerals and vitamins in them as they used to be. So it does that to fruits, and it does that to us too. So it pulls out, okay? And in most sprays, they have aluminum boride. And the aluminum is one of the main culprits when it comes to me. For you, it might be different. The way it's working is basically this is ChatGPT that said this, that if you have magnesium and aluminum in your stomach, the aluminum and the magnesium will compete to see which one will be absorbed, and only one will be a winner. So if we're always in an environment where we're filled with aluminum, the magnesium has a lot of work to do in order to eventually get absorbed. You know what I'm saying here? And that eventually over time creates deficiencies. So I should have said this a little bit back, but all the way throughout this, I felt like I was poisoned. And this is exactly what is going on. The people with the mysterious illness in New Brunswick were being poisoned. Okay? And we have, again, psychopaths and liars and people that are profiting from this, calling us crazy because they want to fill up their bank accounts, or they want to keep their cushy jobs or their positions in the government. Okay? Now, hopefully I'm not repeating myself, but I need to stress that at first it was my two arms, right? This one was hard, it was the worst one, the right one. And then eventually it was the pain, instead of being in my forearms, mostly, the pain started traveling to my biceps, to my tricep, to my shoulder, to my back. And there was actually one day where I was moving my shoulder like this, and all of a sudden something popped, and there was a loud pop. And then it unlocked something in my whole right side, and it eventually got down to my toes. My toes were tingling. And I hadn't even noticed how my whole right side was affected by this. Not just my arm and shoulder, but my whole back, sides, leg, hip, everything was affected by this. Another thing that was affected by this was when I was coughing, I was feeling like something was going to tear in my stomach here. And it was very, very scary to feel that. And also I had a plugged ear on my right side, and then when it unplugged, I felt like my eardrum was ready to fall off or tear off. And the most scary part of all this was my heart. I felt somebody was squeezing my heart and pulling on it. Now, of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not able to say if this is true, but I just might have some heart damage because of this. Because after all, the heart is a muscle. And if muscles are contracting, spazzing, and in a state of spasm, the same could happen to a heart, right? So obviously I'm hoping that I don't have any heart damage, but if so, what can I do about it? So all throughout this, for me, it was mysterious. I didn't know what was going on. It was like I had a puzzle with no pieces together. And then when I finally got the puzzle piece of the magnesium and aluminum and the spraying, things started to make sense. And then at least I was starting to know what was going on, because before I didn't have it. I was trying to explain it by, oh well, what did I injure myself in a workout? Did I do too much physical activity? And right, and I kept on saying no, there's nothing that happened. But now that I have these puzzle pieces together, it's starting to make more sense. And the last piece of the puzzle is this mysterious illness in New Brunswick. And these people that are being affected by this are in quite a bit of trouble because of the fact that if they go see their doctor is more likely to not find anything and then send you on your way, and then you get back and eventually a couple of weeks after and say the pain's still there and things are not improving. And then they'll send you for some more tests, and then they'll say, well, we can't find anything in the test, and it'll keep going like that. And then eventually they might find something and say, oh, we need to send you to a neurologist. And most people, when it comes to a neurologist, it takes close to 2 years to see them. And obviously it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if we're experiencing these symptoms that are this intense, Some people don't make it to 2 years. For me, another important part of the puzzle was the fact that my index finger the tip of it was numb for a day. And I was again puzzled by what was going on. And then all of a sudden I remembered the shoulder that I had the surgery on. Before I had the shoulder surgery, there were a lot of times when what was going on was a pinched nerve that was making my whole arm fall asleep. And that's when I put one and one together and I said, this is a pinched nerve, right? So the magnesium deficiency not only impacts muscles, but it impacts nerves. So for proper nerve function, we need minerals and we need things in our bodies as well. And without these things, then we have problems with nerve function, which is the twofold problem that I have, the spasms, cramps, and then the pinched nerves. And like I just said, the neurologists are the people that we need to be able to see. And we see right there, neurologists, nerves, right? And for those that are familiar with certain terms, there is such a thing as a nerve toxin, right? And these things are usually very hard to detect. So it is no wonder that when people are going to see their doctor that they say, oh, there's nothing that is wrong with you. It's all in your head. Well, these toxins are, again, very hard to detect. So another symptom that I experience, and I'm listing all these things in order to be able to maybe help someone that's struggling, right? So people that are trying to put pieces together. My muscles were very tense, spasm, and then contracting, and then all this stuff, right? And all this thing basically contributed to another problem, which was my bones were cracking all the time because of all the tension. Everything was being pulled, right? And on that note, I forgot to add something about magnesium, where magnesium deficiencies, basically magnesium brings water to your muscles. So if you have a magnesium deficiency, you don't have enough water going to your muscles. And muscles require water in order to function properly. If you think of a muscle that's dry, what happens? It becomes brittle. It becomes very likely to tear easily, which is what I was experiencing. But I should add that what I experienced was basically micro tears. So these tearing sensations that I was feeling in my arm were not full-fledged tearing. It was all micro tears that were happening. And not to say that it wasn't painful, that it friggin' was, but at least it wasn't to the point where the whole muscle was about to tear, which was it was what I was feeling that was going to happen. I was so scared it was going to happen one day when I just picked up a glass of water or whatever. So could it be that everybody that's going through some bodily pain, especially when it comes to digestion, when it comes to IBS and Crohn's, that it is all these glyphosates that are responsible for all this? I'm not saying that glyphosate is responsible for every single thing that exists as far as illnesses and diseases, but I'm saying that it is playing a big role because of the fact that it pulls out nutrients, not just magnesium, but every other mineral, vitamin in our bodies. And so imagine if you have calcium being pulled out of your body, what's going to happen to your bones? So who are you going to trust in all this? Are you going to trust people like me that are sharing personal experiences where I'm basically telling you and how much I have been in pain in the past 2 months and how I'm no longer able to work out and not sure what the future holds for me? Are you going to trust people like me that are brave enough to tell you that there's something going on, and all the other people that are coming up and saying that there is something wrong, such as Sarah Nesbitt? It is so sad that most people, they don't care until it happens to them. Where like we can have wars in different countries and we say, oh, it's not here, so I don't care. And even though there's people suffering, oh, let them deal with their issues. But until that we have these things come here, then we'll start caring. When the war comes for our next door neighbor, we'll start caring. So are we going to trust politicians that are dirty, corrupt, liars, manipulators? And the same with the researchers, the doctors that are refusing to help. Or are we going to trust people like Dr. Marrero in Moncton? Are we going to trust people such as Sarah Nesbitt and Jacob Buston, and maybe me, who are brave enough to risk it all and talk about this? We will very well know what the consequence of our opening up about this might be, but somebody has to say something. So I'm hoping that you are certainly not somebody that has experienced this. If you are, I fully empathize with you. There are crazy psychopaths out there. And they will do anything to gain more power. Just how far they will go is how far we will allow them to go, collectively speaking. So with that, I love you all, and if there's anybody that needs to get in touch with me, my email is easily found. My name is Marcel Alain. I live in Bouctouche, and I wish you all the best.